but I think they're actually helping us.
Okay.
And I don't like the lies that people spread about them.
And I like the Haitians, don't get me wrong, because they're my brothers and sisters. Don't get me wrong.
Crise político,
His country's in a crisis right now.
de tigre, máfia,
Gangs.
gangster, allá de mi país
Mafias.
nunca salí de la
You can't
calle
even go outside
por
where he lives.
kidnapping.
They kidnapped you.
It would just be a heavier burden on us.
Paying all these Mexicans to come in like 5 men for the wage of 2 men's work, you know what I mean? And just, they making a killing and people losing their homes, jobs, and everything else because of it.
All right, so immigration is once again a hot topic in the United States, and we are not in uncharted territory. Florida passed SB 1718. This isn't the first time Donald Trump is president. This is not uncharted territory. We know what's going to happen because we've seen many times already what happens when these new immigration views and policies take place. So it's not like it's a surprise or a mystery what's about to happen because we've seen it when Donald Trump became president. We've seen it with SB 1718. And for the most part, we understand that these immigration policies seem to fail and never really seem to eliminate the problem. If anything, it just continues to get worse and worse and even more complicated. And anyone who thinks anything different is going to happen is possibly not been on Earth for the last 8 to 9 years and seen how things have actually got worse than better. And despite many promises from politicians that this problem of illegal immigration is going to be solved, it only continues to get more difficult and more complicated than ever. And already we're facing a new threat from immigration. We have countries like Venezuela and Haiti that are completely out of control. We have people coming here on student visas. A lot of them are actually not coming to the United States to study. They're just using the visa to get their foot through the door and then many times even engaging in illegal businesses in the United States. And these are not being targeted by law enforcement. They're not being apprehended. Most people in the United States are not even aware of how many people are in the United States right now with student visas that are supposed to be attending colleges or in some type of preparatory program and are actually just working in the United States, breaking all of the rules that have to do with their visas. These student visas, it's not a problem only plaguing the United States. It's a huge issue in Europe and Australia as well, where people are finding more legitimate ways to enter the United States temporarily, but not for the intended purpose mentioned. Many people told us that illegal immigrants were leaving people homeless on the streets of the United States. We dug very deep into that and discovered that the overwhelming reason why people are homeless is because of their own personal addictions, financial responsibilities, the fact that the United States doesn't take care of their sick, mentally impaired people, individuals who get hurt, have absolutely no safety net, and end up homeless on the streets, and eventually they're preyed upon by other people on the streets, leaving them in a more vulnerable situation. The notion that it's actually immigrant groups that are leaving these people on the streets simply cannot be corroborated by the stories that we have covered. And in fact, by covering homelessness extensively, what we have discovered is that nobody helps the homeless people more than immigrants, since Americans are actually very cold towards people that are on the streets. It's actually immigrant groups who are helping the homeless get food more and daily needs. If you've watched my homeless interviews, you'll know what I'm talking about. Whenever I ask people who helps you the most, they almost always say immigrants. So we were being told a narrative about immigration into the United States and how it led to homelessness of Americans, but we've interviewed hundreds of homeless Americans and only very few actually pin it on immigrants, and those who do, it's questionable whether it's actually their real life story or just their political ideology. Out of the hundreds of people we've interviewed on the streets, only 2 have told us that the reason that they're homeless is because of illegal immigration. We interviewed a person by the name of Corey in Sarasota who had a car accident. Somebody who had no valid driver's license was here illegally, hurt him in a car accident, and then fled the scene, leaving him disabled, which led to his homelessness. Then we also had an individual in Tennessee who mentioned that he felt that there are so many people working for so little that it drove him out of his occupation. But we're talking 2 people out of hundreds interviewed. But immigration policy in the United States has just been a failure after failure, and the United States is now taking pointers from Canada, who instead of attracting uneducated and poor Latin American immigrants has been focusing on the wealthiest immigrants throughout the whole world. And now with the student visa program, the United States has done something a little bit better, which is not to attract the hordes of homeless and poor people from throughout the world, but to attract a more educated, more sophisticated, and potentially more exploitable source of immigration. The United States, with Canada next door, has realized that the Canadian immigration policies have been better, more productive, and have led Canada to being a better country. So now the United States wants to mirror Canadian immigration policies instead of attracting people illegally to be exploited, somewhat like Canada, where they attract better quality of immigrants, people who have more money. A policy that has worked great for Canada. This is Canada here. You can see this beautiful suburb, tall, beautiful buildings, no garbage on the streets, homicide rates that are a quarter of the United States. Canada's immigration policy is far superior to the United States, and now the United States is starting to realize that perhaps it needs to mirror its immigration policies closer to what's going on in Canada. But the problem being that the United States has international enemies and Canada doesn't seem to have that. And the attention that's being garnished on the other side, on the recipient side, is countries that continue to bring crime to the United States. Russians, Colombians, and other nationalities that simply do not have the best intentions at heart and are many times coming to the United States to orchestrate their international crime rings, means that the people that are coming to the United States right now under legitimate occupations like travel visas or student visas are now actually coming to the United States to do something illegal with that as a pretext. So while the United States continues to cater to the emotions and sentiments of America's anti-Hispanic immigrant sensibilities, that in itself has left the window wide open for other nationalities with other types of legal statuses to come to the United States, some of these individuals even being security threat groups. And because all the focus and attention is on Central American and Mexican immigrants, all these other groups, their motives, their intentions, and their illegal international businesses are getting somewhat of a free pass because they're not the focus of the United States immigration policy, which is once again just catered to ensuring that Americans feel that the government is going after Central and Latin American countries. And that means that there are now people in the United States, some of them from even security threat groups, that are freely roaming the United States, getting absolutely no concern at all. It's become actually more complicated and difficult than ever. Let's take a look at some recent arrests out of Florida that show us exactly what law enforcement is going after. After all, the perception of Americans is that it needs to be Latin American, Central American people who are targeted by these immigration policies, and that is what makes them content. But keep in mind that right now you have Europeans, you have people from all over the world entering the United States under what is supposed to be one purpose, but they're actually here for another. And like I said, some are even security threat groups. Keep in mind that these policies are not driven by national security, they're driven by hateful sentiment. Take a look at our amigo in Polk County, Florida. He was arrested for resisting on a police officer and battery on a police officer. We can definitely say he's getting deported. Eddie is gone. Not only did he not have a valid driver's license, but he also did a hit and run, leaving the scene of an accident. Of course, the overwhelming majority of people from Central America are only here to work, doing the jobs and skill sets that most Americans don't have. And that means that for the most part, the wealthy, rich people like in Naples, Florida, along the coast, these type of properties are always going to be maintained by Central and Latin Americans. And whether they're legal or not, it doesn't matter because to them, those are the only people that are going to manicure their lawns. So immigration policy, many times the rich, wealthy elite continue to exploit the illegals, while the people like me and you are not able to benefit from the exploitative labor of illegals. So what happens many times is that for the most part, the wealthy and elite along the coast are able to continue to exploit these people, but further inland, the areas that don't really have a lot of money, the regular class people are not able to benefit from illegal immigration. Basically, many times these immigration policies strip away the ability of regular people like me and you from having access to illegal immigrants, while the wealthy, rich, and elite are always able to find a way to make sure that they are able to exploit these people while normal people like me and you are not able to. And that's already been the case in the state of Florida, where laws like SB 1718 provided an exemption, a daily fine of $500 for having illegal workers. And many of the large projects, like those working on rebuilding state highways or building large gated communities, if they were discovered to have undocumented workers, they would face a $500 daily fine for having them there, which means that if these companies are simply to pay that fee, that would ensure that they could have hundreds and thousands of illegal workers because the fee was capped at $500. Now, that would not be sustainable for a small company, but for somebody who has hundreds of illegal workers, it's actually okay to pay $500 a day towards that fine, which ensures that they're able to continue using illegal labor. So laws like SB 1718 made it difficult for people like me and you to be able to exploit illegal immigrants, but the big corporations that have the big construction projects in the state of Florida, they were able to have an exemption so that they could just pay a $500 daily fine and continue to use illegal immigrants at their job sites. Now, that immigration law wasn't presented to us that way, but it was written that way, where a small business like a food truck simply couldn't afford to have an illegal worker. But if you're building a large gated community, then you could. And this has led to many of the people that were working illegally in the state of Florida to have to stop working for small businesses and have to go work for larger corporations, like the ones working in state construction or large gated communities. And laws like this make it to where the rich are able to continue to exploit immigrants, while the person like me and you who may just have a small business isn't able to afford it. So according to Florida's governor and Donald Trump, there are currently 1 million people illegally in the state of Florida. Now, this is after SB 1718 by Florida's governor. It's after the first term of Trump's administration and the immigration policies that he implemented. That's also after Obama got rid of wet foot, dry foot law and the Obama administration deportations, which were massive. After all these implementations by different administrations, from state to county ordinances, all the way up to the federal government, you still have 1 million people living in Florida illegally. So we can say that in the past, whether state or federal laws have not prevented people from living in Florida in a status of undocumented. Now, the problem is that moving forward, regardless of what laws the federal government may implement, keep in mind that in the state of Florida, there's still protection for these large companies under SB 1718, which implements that they're only going to receive a $500 fine for having these workers. So SB 1718 will continue to provide a protection for large companies that hire illegal immigrants in the state of Florida. So what we can expect is small businesses, landscaping companies, on a microscopic local scale. We can see, of course, targeted immigration raids, but it isn't going to be targeted at new home construction. It isn't going to be targeted at state roads that are being rebuilt right now. Like here where I live in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, Highway 70 is being expanded. It's probably 70 or 80% of the workers on this state's project who are likely illegal immigrants. After SB 1718, we still saw Guatemalans doing the landscaping for Manatee County Sheriff's offices. And even after SB 1718, we can see that the rebuilding of Highway 70, the overwhelming majority of the workers there are going to be of undocumented status. So we understand that these are going to be targeted on a microscopic level for people in small industries and small businesses or particular areas. But are we going to see them actually try to stop the construction? Are they going to go after the rebuilding of highways? In those particular fields, it seems that SB 1718 will provide protection to the people hiring them. While they could be arrested at their commutes, they can be arrested at home or in a business somewhere else in the community. But as far as these particular job sites, it seems illogical that with the protection that SB 1718 granted these large corporations, that they're going to see immigration raids there. Meet Raul Antonio from Polk County, Florida. He had a revoked driver's license. That means that at some point his driver's license was good. And even then, it is so common for people to continue driving without a valid driver's license that they actually have to say it's his first conviction because, subsequent ones can be expected. And notice that despite SB 1718 and the heavy vocabulary that Florida has used against illegal immigration, these individuals without a valid driver's license don't have immigration holds, which means they're actually getting released back into the state of Florida, despite everything the state of Florida has said it's going to do to stop illegal immigration. For some reason, there are not immigration holds on every last one of these people. Meet Mr. Ofney. It's his second conviction, and he has an out-of-county warrant. But again, if you don't have a driver's license there, why are you driving? And if you don't have a driver's license, aren't you most likely undocumented? This isn't his first rodeo, it's his second one. Now today is the 19th, tomorrow is the inauguration day, and I can tell you that I'm looking outside my apartment complex and I have seen nothing but Uber drivers picking up people with luggage that are leaving my apartment complex today. So people are going to leave voluntarily. Most people are not going to stick around and be deported. They're going to leave voluntarily. And that's exactly what's happening today in Florida. A lot of people are leaving voluntarily. I mean, just today I'm sitting outside looking through my window and I have seen 2 people get picked up by Uber drivers with all their luggage, something that I have never seen out here. So people are definitely leaving the state of Florida in anticipation for these changes. Meet Joel. Joel was driving without a valid driver's license and he was also under the influence. Now everybody knows that only rich white women in the suburbs are allowed to drive under the influence. Take a look at this individual right here. He had an onslaught of different criminal charges. Now, if he's Puerto Rican, he is a U.S. born citizen. I don't think he's Cuban. He doesn't look Cuban, but he could be Venezuelan, could be illegal. The thing a lot of people just don't understand about Florida is a lot of times you have a million Cubans who came under the wet foot, dry foot law. You got a million Puerto Ricans that are all U.S. born citizens. So the overwhelming percentage of the Hispanic community in Florida that is Hispanic is illegal. It's only a small percentage of Hispanics that are illegal. And many people assume that Cubans, Puerto Ricans, everybody that's Hispanic is here illegally. But what they don't understand that the overwhelming percentage of these people are U.S. citizens. And their sentiment, again, isn't against illegal immigration. It's a place of hate for Hispanics. So they're never going to be satisfied regardless. No, I'm a U.S. citizen and I have a valid driver's license. And I've had a concealed carry permit. All my paperwork's been in order. And while living in the state of Alabama, I realized that it isn't the fact that somebody's legal or illegal that makes these people hate you. It's the fact that you're Hispanic, that you're an immigrant. Whether you're legal or not, they don't hate your legal status. They hate you as a person. So from somebody, a Hispanic like myself, who's lived in Alabama and experienced racism and hate, not for being illegal, but for being a Hispanic, it's hard to pull the wool over my head over the reality that to many of these people, it isn't about legal or illegal, because I had all my stuff legal. My house was paid off cash. My cars were paid off cash. My driver's license was valid. My concealed carry permit was issued to me by the state of Alabama. And I'm a U.S. citizen with a social security number. So it wasn't my legal status that was a problem. Oh, that was in order. So why did I still receive hate from people? Well, because it's not about your legal status. It's about your race. And for those people, even if you deport all the ones that are here illegally, I got a friend that lives in Tampa who is a Puerto Rican. He is a U.S. born citizen. And he was recently attacked by somebody in Tampa, a woman, asking that he be deported over a car accident. And again, he's a U.S. citizen just like her. He was born in the United States just like her, but he was attacked by a woman who called him all types of racist names, told him he was going to get deported over a car accident because he didn't speak English. Well, guess what? He was born in a part of the United States called Puerto Rico where English isn't the primary language because the United States has territories all over the world. At the end of the day, for a lot of these people, it doesn't matter if you're legal or not. It doesn't come from a respect of legality situation. It comes from a place of hate. If they were so keen on legalities, they wouldn't be registered offenders. They wouldn't be criminals. They wouldn't have criminal records. A lot of times these individuals who proclaim that they want you to come over here legally and do it the right way are the first people who have criminal records. They don't respect the law. They cheat on their taxes. Okay, so if you have a criminal record, why do you care about somebody being illegal or illegal? You don't follow the law. And here's a third person right now with a suitcase outside, guys. So it's definitely a lot of people that are leaving the state of Florida right now. I've never seen so many people with suitcases outside. So a lot of people are leaving. And if you look at them, they look white. Because they're not Mexican or Guatemalan or Salvadorian. They're Ukrainians, Brazilians, Europeans, people who look like they're white, but they're actually not living in the United States legally. So if you're a convicted felon, you use illegal substances, you commit tax evasion, well, you're not a law-abiding, you're not doing things legally yourself. Now, if you're an upstanding citizen and you don't have criminal convictions, you're not a convicted felon, and you want to talk about the legalities of somebody else, I would be all for listening to it. But no, if you're consuming illegal substances, you're a convicted felon, and you don't pay your taxes, you're the one who's not doing it's kind of hypocritical for somebody who is in a completely illegal state. It's an illegal substance that you put in your body. It's a convicted felon. If you're under those categories, you don't have a lot of room to talk about somebody else being illegal. I was just only talking to a homeless person who was telling me how much he hates illegal people. They're doing things that are illegal. Jose, I said, when was the last time you put something illegal on your body? He said, just a couple hours ago. I said, well, you're not any different than him. That's not exactly a moving violation you got there, buddy. That there will put you away for a long time. So I'm just saying, from personal experiences, I've seen individuals who are not very law-abiding themselves. Sure, you might be here illegally, but you're turning yourself illegally. If these people who are here illegally had the opportunity to be here legally, they would jump on that opportunity in a heartbeat. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's just a lot of people, again, it isn't about their love of legality. Of course, they portray it as we want everybody to do everything the right way. But no, you're not doing things the right way. You're skipping out on your taxes every year. You ever meet somebody and they're like, well, I just want cash money. I want cash. I really don't want to give you a receipt. You meet people like that all the time. Well, you're not legal. You're doing things illegally. So again, if you yourself, while being a legal person, like to do things that are illegal, a lot of these people that are illegal, they don't break the law. They wouldn't cheat on taxes. I got a friend who's undocumented who's been paying taxes for over 20 years in this country. And every time he goes in front of a court, in front of a judge, he brings his documents and say, hey man, I've been paying taxes here for 20 years. Meet Mr. Sanchez. He lives in Lehigh Acres, Florida. He was caught in Naples, Collier County with no driver's valid license. They actually got an immigration hold on him. Interestingly, I've never seen the Collier County Sheriff Kevin come out and do a press conference about, we're getting rid of the illegals. But then Polk County, who's always on the news, we're doing everything we can, get the tear out right there. You see them doing their press conferences weekly talking about, we're doing everything we can about the illegals. But when an illegal gets arrested in their county, they don't get an immigration hold. But Collier County down there in Naples, they put the immigration hold on, buddy. And I've never seen Kevin doing a press conference about immigration. So, again, a lot of times for these people, it's all about saying the right thing, tickling the right ears, and getting the right response out of people, and they get people's support. But in reality, when it comes down to action, they don't do much. In the case of this individual, he should have been in Polk County rather than Collier. Put that immigration hold on him down there in Naples, Florida. But I've never seen the sheriff in Naples ever do a press conference about how we're going to catch all the illegal immigrants in our county. Like Busta Rhymes saying, man, don't talk about it, be about it. Come around and beat up at it, something like that. I think P. Diddy was on that song. Now that I think about it, it's kind of suspect. But you get the idea. Then you got individuals like Fernando. They're ready to go home. He had his first conviction of no valid driver's license, hit and run, causing damage to property, a false ID to law enforcement, and he also had an out-of-county warrant. He's just getting ready to go back there and be with his folks and stuff like that. Now meet Panadero from Polk County, Florida. He was engaged in a domestic issue, and they put that ICE detention hold on him. You can't put your hands on people if you're not from here. Now, who names their kid Panadero? That's just wrong. Like, how do you even end up with a name like that? Like, you're born and your mother's like, well, his father was a panadero, so he is going to be a panadero too. And no, he's going to be a deportero, so he's going to be. Oh, es que va a ser un deportista. No, es que lo van a deportar. If you don't speak Spanish, panadero means baker. They named him Baker as if he was going to work at a bakery. But that didn't really work out. Then you got this lady. DUI, no valid driver's license. How somebody who doesn't have a driver's license gets involved in a DUI is beyond me. I mean, I have a valid driver's license, and I don't want to get involved with that one. Meet Carlos Abel from Palm Springs, Florida. He had no valid driver's license. They need to put him on the first Spirit flight back to Guatemala. Meet Miguel Lopez out of Naples, Florida. He's been eating good. He's at 245 pounds, no valid driver's license, and he likes to steal stuff too. Then you got individuals like Eduardo. Now, Eduardo likes to put his hands on other people violently. And if he's not here illegally, maybe law enforcement and ICE could put their hands on him. And you got this homie here at over 400 pounds. Now they have a hold on him for the U.S. Marshals. I don't think they'll be able to ship him on a Spirit airline. They're going to have to send him on a train. Then you got the homie Enrique. He had a short barrel shotgun, and he has an immigration ICE hold. Now, individuals like this, if you're already here illegally, why are you doing something so bad? It's individuals like this that you have absolutely no sympathy for when they get deported. The overwhelming majority of people who are against the law by not having documents are going to do the best they can not to get in trouble because they don't want to mess their opportunity up to be here and work. But individuals like this don't want to work. They want to delinquent. And, well, if you want to be holding shotguns and stuff like that, there's a country down there in Latin America where you can do plenty of that right there. You can be right at home with your people and your folks and your family, and you can be home with your folks and all that. Now meet Santiago. It's time for him to go. Goodbye, Santiago. Meet Miss Patel. She was scamming out of a hotel. She has some charges for fraud. This is interesting when people do like a stereotypical crime. It's almost like this is the type of person you would expect to be doing it. That's Miss Patel for you. And it's individuals like that who come to the United States to scam people and screw people over. If you're coming here to screw people over, you need to get back across the border. Now you guys remember Santiago, you need to go? Well, let me tell you why he needs to go. He had a no valid driver's license. He ran away from the scene of a crash. Then he had a DUI. Now, he has a detention hold as well. If you come over here and do all types of reckless behavior and stuff like that, well, we're just going to have to send you back. And these are just some of the individuals who apparently, allegedly, right, they're not supposed to be here, but they end up on the wrong side of the law. Now, I'm the type of person that if somebody is here illegally and they're working hard and they're not hurting anybody and they're just trying to make a better life for their families, I can never talk another person down for trying to make their lives better. Now, a lot of people that say, you got to do it the right way, come here legally, what they're really saying is, I hate you no matter what. So you have to learn how to read between the lines. And when there are so many people that, out of hate, pretend like they care about law and order, but it's not about law and order. It's a hateful sentiment for other people. So you can't mix me up on that. And I've been in a situation where I've had my stuff legal, and I've had people treat me with disrespect, treating me like I'm here illegally. So when you meet people like that, they make you not want to be like them. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, that because of the sentiment of hate, a lot of people become sympathetic to people here illegally, because if they have to sympathize with somebody who's full of hate and sympathize with somebody who's just trying to make their lives better, a lot of people are going to choose to sympathize with somebody who's trying to make their lives better and not sympathize with somebody who's full of hate. After all, a lot of those individuals are doing things against the law themselves. And like I said, I don't want to hear immigration talk from somebody who's a convicted felon. I don't want to hear somebody who's consuming illegal substances talk about illegal, because you're putting illegal right inside of your vein down there. So don't talk to me about illegal. You're illegal. Yeah, you're putting it in you, okay? So, no, like, there's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to immigration. But like I said earlier in the video, this is not the first time we see somebody say they're going to do something about immigration. In fact, it's not the first time this individual says he's going to do something about immigration. And if you look at immigration to the United States, it's more complex than it's ever been. It's actually worse than ever. Not because there's more people coming here than ever, but because the people that are coming here now have found more discreet ways to come here. And I would personally almost rather give an opportunity to somebody who comes to work hard jobs than to a student who's got rich parents back home in Brazil or Ukraine who's coming over here just because their parents are rich. They're not going to be productive. They're not going to produce anything in our society. In fact, a lot of times they are more propense to end up in illegal issues because they're coming from a wealthy background with a student visa. These are, well-to-do little kids, and they're more likely to actually contribute to delinquency. We just saw here in Lakewood Ranch, where I live, somebody who was from Chile who came to the United States with a student visa doing home invasion robberies. The homeowner had to handle that situation. Now, that homeowner is practically my neighbor because I live here in Lakewood Ranch. And 5 minutes away from where I live in Lakewood Ranch, we had to see a homeowner have to hurt somebody permanently because they did a home invasion robbery. And this person, again, was a Chilean on a student visa. So what happens now is that it used to be hard-working Central Americans that came here to make a better life for themselves. And you could be sympathetic for those people because they were working hard and contributing to our society. But now you got all these people coming here on student visas. They're young kids. They're rich. They don't appreciate being in the United States. And many times they do crimes that are just like they're not even respecting the fact that they're here. So for me, I feel like immigration is worse than ever because there was a time when it was people coming here to make their lives better. And it seems like today that isn't the case as often. Today it's people that are coming here because they want to have more money, because their parents are rich and they're wealthy and affluent, and they don't really have a lot of appreciation for the opportunity to be in the United States. And I feel like if you're going to attract people, give people an opportunity to be something better. But today with these student visas, you get a bunch of little snobby rich kids that end up doing home invasion robberies. And that's not the type of people that I would want to be living in my community. Now, when I lived in Lakewood Ranch 3 years ago when I first moved here, this was all rich white people. Today, there have become so many of these student visa people. Probably 30 to 40% of the people where I live now are on a student visa. They're students from India, Brazil, Ukraine, every single country in the world. And while I have a lot of appreciation for the overwhelming majority of these kids, I do recognize that what is the incentive of letting somebody come to the United States if they're only going to be here temporarily and if they have a lot of incentive to want to stay? And again, they're not coming to work and make their lives better. They're coming here because they're from an affluent background and are able to afford to come over here. Their propensity to find themselves on the wrong side of the law is even higher than people that are natively from here. In the case of people who were here illegally before, Central Americans working, these individuals were rarely on the wrong side of the law. But today, you're starting to see that too many of these individuals today just aren't like the immigrants that used to come here 10, 15 years ago. Now, when Trump first came into office back in 2016, 2017, we saw people leaving the United States that had been in the United States 20 and 30 years. They had children and even grandchildren that were born here. These were individuals that were almost practically Americans because they had been in the United States for so long. Their kids here, their grandkids were here. And to see those people's lives be disrupted was very painful. If somebody's been in your country 20 and 30 years, and in that time span, they've never been on the wrong side of the law, they have kids who are police officers and firefighters and paramedics and lawyers and doctors, those aren't the type of people that you just want to get rid of and send to another country because they've been in your country for so long and they've produced really good results. In the case of those people back then, it was an absolute tragedy to see those people go, the Mexican Americans that had been here for so many years, never been against the law. But since then, I think people that came after Trump's first term kind of understood that you're unwanted here. And it hasn't really changed. So today, I think people that come now understand that they're unwanted here. So back then, things were different. Things now have changed. You just can't feel the same way for these Haitians and Guatemalans and, of course, Venezuelans that are coming now to the United States, quickly end up on the wrong side of the law versus Mexican Americans that were here for so many years and they were practically already Americans. It just isn't the same thing. People after Trump's first term understood that the sentiment against immigrants had changed in this country tremendously, and thus you just can't feel the same way for these new waves of immigrants as you can for the previous wave of immigrants. So people now should understand that if they're going to come to the United States, do it transit legally. Or go to a country that doesn't outright hate you. But the people that are coming now, I think understand that the sentiment is against them. So if you're not wanted somewhere, why would you go there? Many years back, Americans were more accepting of people that were here just to work, but that's not even the case anymore. They don't want people here. People now in the United States have become so full of hate that even if it's beneficial, they would rather go without the benefits as long as they can prolong their hate. So people that are coming now should pretty much understand what they're getting into. So the sentiment of feeling sorry for people coming now is very different than it was for a Mexican American who was here for 20 or 30 years. Times have changed, people's sentiments have changed, and the type of immigrants that are coming here have changed. Immigrants came here just to work, and they were just admirable people, to be honest. They would come here to work, to cut trees, to work 14-hour days, and to provide for their families a better life. People that are coming today, they're not that interested in working. A lot of them are just scamming, defrauding, stealing, trying to beat the system, trying to live off the government and stuff like that. And it's just isn't the same thing. The United States should have grabbed when there were good waves of immigrants, like when the Mexicans came, when the first Guatemalans came. Those are the types of people that you wanted to have millions of them in your country because they were going to be productive. But the waves of people that are coming now simply aren't the same. They're coming from countries that have criminality. These individuals are not coming here to work. They have criminal tendencies and they're professing it in their day-to-day activities. But for many of the people in Florida, for example, who think they don't realize that the overwhelming majority of Hispanics in Florida are legal. Many of them U.S.-born citizens, whether Cubans or Puerto Ricans or other nationalities, are going to be in for a rude awakening that the overwhelming majority of Hispanics in Florida are legal. And this isn't the first time somebody has promised to eradicate illegal people from the state of Florida and has failed. Many people, federal, state, it doesn't seem like this is a problem that's going to go away. And this is a problem that every country in the world has. Latin America has a huge problem. You got Venezuelans going into Chile, going into Argentina. I mean, the plague of Venezuelans has become a problem, not just for the United States, but just about every other country in North and South America is dealing with Venezuelans leaving their country. And these are individuals who, for some reason or others, just seem to be way more propense to criminality than other nationalities. And Venezuela is a large country. For example, the country of Cuba only had 10 million people. Venezuela is a much larger country. Larger population, individuals that enjoyed wealth and affluence and lost everything. Now these individuals are spread through North and South America, causing trouble for a lot of people. It isn't just the United States that is having these sentiments. You're starting to see Chile, Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Panama, every other country in Latin America starting to stake the same sentiments as the United States about the plagues of people that are entering their country. Even across the water in Europe, Spain is having the same exact problem. So this is not just a problem affecting the United States, it is a global problem. And now you're starting to see a lot of Americans that are leaving the United States for some reason or another. So it isn't just Americans are becoming to the point where some people in the United States are having to go somewhere else as well. So things are getting nasty on a global level. And if you believe that one politician is going to fix this problem, you would have to be an absolute fool. Many people have promised it on a state level, on a federal level, and it has never got better. It has only got worse. And as more countries enter wars and conflicts, logically, the world situation is not improving. So things are only getting worse. There's more conflicts throughout the whole world, which will lead to more refugees, which will lead to more what? People having to leave their homelands and go somewhere else. Nobody should ever be in a situation where they have to leave their homeland. But as geo-bullying becomes a problem, big, powerful countries like to step over people's toes. There's two countries right now that are very powerful and they're both doing the same thing. With countries doing that, it's going to be a constant problem where you're going to have regional instability. These regional instabilities will lead to mass amounts of people having to leave their countries. Here in the United States, we don't really worry about what's happening in other countries, but it's a mess just about in every single country. And these people are eventually going to have to go somewhere because where they are right now isn't safe for their families. And I've never been the type of person to blame somebody for looking for a better place when the place they're at right now isn't working for them. So what's going to happen to the over 1 million people that are living in the state of Florida right now illegally? a lot of them are going to leave. And by the time they leave, there'll be another million from another million places. The never-ending story that keeps repeating itself. If you're going to put faith that this is going to go away because somebody promises to get rid of the problem, you have lost your mind. It only seems to get worse. And the places people are coming from means that these are new challenges. These are new issues that are going to arise. So we don't know what the next country to be flipped upside down is. Look at Ecuador, for example. Ecuador was a country that was one of the safest places in the world. In fact, a lot of Americans moved to Ecuador, and now insecurity in Ecuador has reached levels even higher than Mexico. So it's one of those situations where a country can be safe now, but tomorrow, overnight, that country can become a very dangerous place to live, and the people are going to have to find somewhere else to live. Legal or not, they don't have an option but to find somewhere safer. And with global instability, there's always another country that's going to get flipped overnight, and the people there are going to have to find somewhere else to go. It's not going to stop happening. It's just going to get worse. So if you really believe that immigration is going to get better, yeah, I don't think so. And it's just a logical thing that these challenges will continue to arise. And this isn't a problem just the United States is facing. Just about every country in the world has to contend with people from other places trying to find somewhere safer for them and their families. I mean, even in the United States, you're starting to see people who are having to move to other places because of racial inequality, because of discrimination, because of corruption. People within the United States are relocating to safer places. So it's happening internally in the United States. It's happening on a global level. It isn't just going to get better because somebody becomes hard-handed. I mean, you got like Russian women that come over here and marry guys for their paperwork. Colombian women are known to do that as well. Brazilian women do that as well. You got people who marry for a visa, student for a visa, travel for a visa, and business for a visa. And these individuals are doing practically the same thing as everybody else. They're just finding a more quote-unquote legal avenue to do it, but their intentions are still the same. It is to immigrate to another country through some type of shady practice. And the United States has got so carried away with anti-Hispanic sentiment that they forget that there's a lot of Anglo-Saxons that are an even more dangerous threat to national security, but because they're white like you kind of don't notice it. It's kind of like the enemy from within, you could call it. Anyways, that's today's video on immigration. Yes, there's 1 million people illegally in Florida. Yes, there's going to be new laws and crackdowns on immigration, but is it the first time this happens? It isn't. Will it be the last? Absolutely not. Is it good or bad for the economy is irrelevant. People don't care if it's bad for the economy. The United States has long ago abandoned logic and abandoned benefit for sentiment. This country is no longer based on logic. Law in this country is no longer based on logic. Many years ago, laws were made to protect and make the world a better and safer place. Laws today are made to cater to people's sentiments so that they can get votes. And that's the way the United States run right now. There was a time when laws were aimed at making the place better, at making things more productive, at making things run more efficiently. That's not the way the United States works right now. Law in the United States right now does not care about practicality. A lot of people who argue pro-immigration try to argue with logic. There is no logic. It's not about logic. It's about sentiment. Sentiment, particularly hate, does not care about logic. If the United States were to become a burning pile of garbage, but only they were here, they would prefer that because, again, they're not caring about logic. They're not caring about safety. The United States doesn't care about what's safe. The United States doesn't care about what's logical. The United States is getting to the point where it doesn't even care about what is due process. None of that matters. They want to achieve what they want to achieve, even if it means being kind of against logic, against safety. If the United States were to become a dangerous crap hole, but they were able to obtain their goals of whatever their sentiments are, that's the way this country's being. That's the way law works right now in the United States. It is no longer about, there was a time when law was about safety. There was a time when law enforcement and courts in general were proficient at ensuring safety. Why are homicide rates up? Why are overdose rates up? Why is there so much lawlessness? is because it's no longer about safety. It's no longer about common sense. It is now about catering to sentiments. People get voted into power by catering to people's sentiments. So it's no longer about making things better. It's no longer about jobs. It's no longer about affordability. It's no longer about any of that. People think they're going to get affordability, think they're going to get safety, they're going to get security. How? Laws today are coming into place to cater to people's sentiments, not to logic, not to safety. If you think otherwise, you're a fool.